In this video, we're going to be exploring one of my favorite topics when it comes to the massing environment, and that is going to be Nurbs. So Nurbs stands for a non-uniform rational B-spline surface. So let me show you how something like that is created. Now this is really similar to creating some sort of a blend or something like that. But instead of closed forms, we're going to be having open splines, and we're just going to be connecting those together to have some really unique shapes when it comes to surfaces. So let me show you how something like that is done. Let's go here into level 1, for example, and then what we can do is copy this reference plane maybe a few times. So let's go here to multiple, copy it like this, and then here maybe once again. And as you can see, Revit will automatically name these, which is really useful, unlike usually where you create a reference plane and then you have to name it. Here, this one got named by default. So, for example, this one is 4, this one is 2, this one is 3, and this one is the center front back. So now what we can do is go here to south elevation. And while we're here in the south elevation, we can choose the spline tool. And in this case, instead of selecting the reference plane by selecting it first, what we can do is go here to placement plane and select it that way. So I think it starts, or the closest one to us is the reference plane 4. So let's start with that. Make sure that draw on a work plane is selected over here. And then you can simply create a spline, kind of like that. There we go. Then you can just go here to spline again to kind of deselect that one and create a new one. Now, in this case, the reference plane that I'm going to select is the center front back. That's the second one. So for that one, let's create a spline that goes perhaps like this. Then go to spline again. Now, I think it's number 3 or 2. I'm not sure. Let's go back into level 1. Just double check. Yeah, it's 2 and then 3. So let's go back to south elevation, reference plane. So we said it was 2, then 3, so let's go with a spline and create something. Oops, it was a reference spline, so let's delete that. We're going to be talking about reference lines and splines later on, so make sure that it's a model spline. And then also here, yeah, that's the correct placement plane. And then we can create something that looks like that. Go to spline again, and finally let's go with work plane or reference plane number 3, and that one is going to go perhaps something like this. So as you can see, we have a lot of these overlapping splines. That's okay. Let's go to the modify tool, and now let's switch back to the 3D view. So as you can see, we have a lot of these, and they're, well, ununiform or non-uniform. And now if I select the first one, hold the control key, select the second one, third one, and then the final one, and go to create form, we're going to get an uneven form that looks like this. So it looks like some sort of either a terrain, topography, maybe a water that isn't standing still or something like that. So it's a really unique shape that you can create. You do have this stretch tool, but you can only kind of reposition the whole thing in space. You can't really change much. You can try to select individual points here and then try to reshape those, but they can be kind of tricky to find. But if you do find them, as you can see, you can kind of reshape that whole shape. So if you got this course looking for creating those wild, difficult, complex shapes, as you can see, this is how something like that is done. So here we have a point. We can bring it out, bring it below, just like that. So we can play around a little bit with that. And also, when it comes to creating shapes like this, where you have non-uniform shapes, it is really helpful to use the shaded view mode, because it is going to make it a lot easier for you to just understand what that shape looks like, because we're really not working with anything really precise or specific, so it can be a bit difficult to just understand what the whole shape is consistent of. So just make sure that you have that shaded view mode on to make it a bit easier to see what exactly are you doing.